It's me, Carmine DeStefano, the Bookman. So, Force Awakens saved Star Wars. Let's get into a little history. George Lucas, having been so jaded by all the so-called Star Wars fans crushing him for completing his saga in the manner he decided, was done with making Star Wars movies. So he sold his product to Disney for a very steep price in the hopes of making more movies. I didn't know that he wrote his own script for Episode 7, which Disney shelved and kicked him off the project, citing they wanted to make something for the fans. Wow. What they got was an amalgamation of everything people that complained the most about the prequels and re-releases complained about, throwing it all together in one nasty, ill-conceived package. There were so many issues with this movie and so many things that should have kept it from being pulled off the cutting floor. But we'll start at the beginning. I saw somebody made a video about the 10 things wrong with this movie. I can come up with about 10 things wrong with the opening crawl. First and foremost, it's too long. There's too much going on. Normally, this scrolling text gives us a simple telling of where we were, where we're going, and where we are. But in this case, there's so much happening that doesn't seem to connect to one another. And that's because they're trying to retell Episode 4's story at the end of Episode 6. From what we can tell, Luke was training Jedi. Why? I have no idea. How? He wasn't a Jedi. He failed every test in his attempt to be a trainee himself. But be that as it may, he trains Jedi, and one of them, Kylo Ren, seduced by a new dark side, kills off all his trainee brethren like Anakin was supposed to do, forcing Luke into some kind of self-imposed exile. Why are you leaving when your own student decided to turn on you and the other Jedi in the Jedi Order? Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda were forced into exile because they had one chance to stop the Sith without utilizing their resources. Not to mention where Snoke came from to begin with. There are only two Sith Lords, the Master and the Apprentice. We've heard this. And whenever there was an attempt to have more, they always fell by the wayside, being left for dead or killed off outright. If Snoke had existed all these years, why didn't Palpatine or Darth Vader either hunt them down to kill him or try to recruit him to destroy their master or apprentice? Not to mention, why would any commanding officer of any merit listen to anything this decrepit, warped pile of white shit would say to him? It's not like Palpatine, who already was the ultimate power in a republic, and it's not like he had an explanation as to why he looked as he looked naturally when his cover was blown by the Jedi, citing that it was the Jedi attack that made him look this way. And by the way, how am I going to be intimidated by the name Snoke? It sounds like the smoking snork. And it's not just Snoke. Rey, Poe, Finn. These are not real names. These are all names that you get from a second-rate 1996 website where you put in your first name, your last name, and the street you grew up in and get your Star Wars names. But here's another issue with this plot. Luke wants to hide forever, but he leaves behind a map that details exactly where to find him. And he gives it to this guy. So I ask the question, who the fuck is this guy? We have no idea of his background, his character, or his connection to Luke Skywalker, or why Luke would trust him with this all-important map as opposed to, say, his own fucking sister. Did she not have the ability to sense Luke's presence when he called out to her before knowing they were related, or she had the Force in her? Was she not able to sense his presence when he was leaving the Death Star when she barely even knew that she could use the Force? Even in this movie, Leia's fucking useless. You're telling me that 30 years later, Luke and Leia never worked together on harnessing this gift he himself said she would learn how to use as time progressed. So instead, she sends Poe, a Resistance trick pilot, to pick up this map from this character on Tatooine. Oh wait, I'm sorry, Jakku. It's a totally different planet. It's a desert junk planet. No connection whatsoever. Now, why would you send a trick pilot to do a spy's job? When Anakin had to hide Padme from assassination attempts, they returned to Naboo utilizing unregistered transport and traveling as refugees. This guy's going in a military shuttle, a combat-ready shuttle, an X-Wing that might have been tagged by the enemy. And by the way, who the fuck is this guy? I mean, I know he was Jesus Christ from the greatest story ever told, but aside from that, in this movie, who is he? He speaks of a darkness that's spreading, as though he has some concept of the Force, but we have no idea of whether or not he can actually use it. And why would he be so important to a storyline when he shows up, gets captured, and we never see him again? And once more, why would Luke leave a map behind for anyone to find? If he wants to escape without ever being seen from or heard of again, why would you leave behind evidence or a tracking system to locate him in full detail? And one more time, who the fuck is this guy? But anyway, we move on to our villain, Kylo Ren, who shows new Force powers, where he can freeze blaster shots in mid-flight and freeze people in place to capture them. But why don't you just use that lightsaber you have in your hand to bat the blaster shot back at somebody and incapacitate them? He also has this pretty keen power where he can get ideas from people by pulling them out of their hands. But now this leads us to one of our heroes, Finn. And this also leads us to another issue with this movie, the overacting. It happens so often amongst most of the main characters where not one reaction could be a natural reaction of excitement, enthusiasm, or sadness. And it gets grating. It's way too distracting at times. But then I also have to ask this question. Since Poe did get captured, what was his plan for BB-8 to begin with? This little defenseless, helpless droid is sent out in a junk planet all by his lonesome with a tremendously important map without any discernible path. What exactly was Poe plotting out? That he would escape? What if you didn't? What if you got killed? What if they screwed your brains up and you didn't know where you were going? You just rely on the hope that you might return to a planet that's occupied by your enemy to pick up your droid and take it back to the Resistance base. At least R2-D2 had a discernible path. He went to Tatooine to find Obi-Wan Kenobi, a general and Jedi Knight, to take the plans in his databanks to the Rebel base on Alderaan. In this case, BB-8's just sent out in the wilderness to fend for itself until maybe Poe returns. But since we're on the act of convenience in this movie, the droid is conveniently found by Rey, a character who's a combination of Luke and Anakin Skywalker. She knows everything, she speaks every language, she can repair any piece of machinery, yet she can't get it through her fucking skull that her family that abandoned her on Jakku 20 years ago is not coming back. And what's also convenient is after Finn crashes and sees Poe destroyed in the TIE fighter they stole from the base, bumps into her and this droid, and they conveniently leave the planet when they conveniently find the Millennium Falcon fully functional and still working at 100% capacity. And then it conveniently gets found by Han Solo and Chewbacca. Now he's smuggling Rothar, who are eerily similar to Marlboros in Final Fantasy, that have quite the appetite until they grab hold of Finn, and then one just kind of drags him along the ship until Rey can save him. And what about this Kylo Ren, the villain himself? What a sad, sorry villain he is. He never uses his lightsaber until he's throwing a temper tantrum and destroying consoles. He kills his commanding officers because things don't go his way. And his reason for turning is because he's angry at his dad and wants to be his grandfather, Anakin Skywalker. When his grandfather, Anakin Skywalker, died a Jedi Knight who brought an end to the dark side of the Force. He also prays to this helmet of Darth Vader's, a warped version of it anyway, asking to be more like him and have the darkness within him come out. I want to know how you got that helmet to begin with, since it was burned to ash on Anakin Skywalker's body when Anakin Skywalker was given his funeral pyre. And speaking of having artifacts from the past that should not exist anymore, we see our heroes land on not Yavin with a not Cantina because it's on a forest planet, not Tatooine or Jakku, and a not Yoda creature who's been around for over 1,000 years, who knows everything but doesn't use the Force, has in a little case something of great import that calls out to Rey. It turns out to be Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, which she touches and then gets some kind of deep, moving religious experience that shows her all these things the Force are telling her. Time out. Little bit of a problem here. First off, where did this fucking creature get this lightsaber from? We saw the goddamn thing fall off the face of Bespin's Cloud City. And another thing, when did this lightsaber become Excalibur and the Sword in the Stone? It doesn't call out to people. Luke Skywalker was Anakin Skywalker's son, and the lightsaber didn't move him in some way when he touched it. He held it, and that was it. So who exactly is Rey that she somehow realizes that she's using the Force or whatever when she touches this lightsaber? And like all the other heroes in this movie, she finds out her responsibility and runs off trying to escape it. But while this is going on, it's time for the New Order to show its prominence. And after some overdramatic speech that goes on for about 2 or 3 minutes, their Starkiller base blows up 5 planets in close proximity to one another in one shot, making it so much bigger a threat than the Death Star. Oh wait, that's another issue. I'm not sure if people understand that there is a whole balance between planets in a solar system. And I'm not sure if people understand that when you can see planets so close from where you are, that means that if one of them explodes, it could cause a major rift in the overall system. In this case, these people can see everything in clear view from their houses, and yet not one rock, not one smoking pebble ever lands on any of the planet's surfaces. But that's okay because Poe's alive. See, he's right there. Spectacular. We move on to where Finn, who never knew about the Force or whatever that was happening right in front of him, realizes how to pick up the lightsaber, turn it on, and fight a stormtrooper who apparently has defenses against lightsabers. But after all of this and the New Order's army is completely smacked around by the Resistance, Leia and Han are reunited, where Leia tells Han to go talk to Kylo Ren and bring their son back from the dark side. Why doesn't Leia go? It's obvious Ren's got an issue with Han. She's his mother. He would listen to her before he listens to his father. And by the way, if Han can sneak on that base, why the hell can't Leia do it? But while this is going on, Rey is captured by Kylo Ren, who comes up with a very fucking stupid plan. One that only a bit of it is called out, but not the whole. My problems are, first off, how do you know she even saw the map? And if you do know she saw the map, how do you know that she remembers it in full detail? You kind of sensed she could? Well, if you could kind of sense that she saw it and it's completely and totally detailed in her memories, then why don't you just read her mind and kill her or send her on her way? And another thing, why'd you leave BB-8, the droid with the actual map on it, for the Resistance to pick up and take back to their base, which is what they did? Why didn't you have the droid destroyed? Or why didn't you have the droid captured and brought back with you? So what do you think happens? A woman that just found out she might have some connection to the Force not only blocks for about 2 minutes worth of effort this guy's attempt to pull the thoughts out of her, but she starts doing what Jedi and Sith do, and that's read his mind and call out exactly how big of a fucking flimsy villain he really is. And although there is a group coming to save her, which would have solved a lot of problems, Rey gets herself freed by using the Jedi mind trick. How did she even know there was such a thing called the Jedi mind trick when she didn't even know that there was a Force 20 minutes earlier? At least Luke saw Obi-Wan Kenobi do it in front of his face. In this case, she just figures it out. And how exactly are we going to destroy this Starkiller base while we're on top of it? Well, considering Finn doesn't even know that the Force exists when it's happening right in front of his face, he somehow knows every single aspect of the construction of this Starkiller base. Then, of course, we get the Kylo Ren Han meeting where it's an obvious setup that Han's gonna die, and sure enough he does. while the group of heroes escapes the destroying planet. See, because in a very nonchalant and rather uneventful battle scene, the Starkiller base is destroyed by the Resistance pretty easily. But this is all just a setup for the big showdown between the main villain Kylo Ren and Finn and Rey. And wouldn't you think that Finn puts up quite a fight and then Rey actually kicks Kylo Ren's ass. And I mean beats his ass. So now a woman who had no idea what the Force was, just found out she could use it, now suddenly picks up a lightsaber for the first time that she didn't want to have in her hands and beats the ever-loving shit out of the main villain the New Order is building their future around. And after leaving him for dead, the planet explodes and everyone escapes, leading us to BB-8 being reunited with R2-D2 or something to that extent, and the name Luke Skywalker coming up, and R2 just spring back into full functionality because of the power of love or something, to reveal that all the while he had the full map, rendering this entire movie completely pointless. And that's what this movie is. Pointless. Really, the whole story revolved around the idea of getting a map that the Resistance had secure in their base the whole while. It's not like the New Order was attacking their Resistance base to get the map. They were chasing down this map piece that would lead to Luke with the overall product. So even if they caught BB-8, it wouldn't have mattered because the Resistance has the map. And this whole storyline itself makes no fucking sense, whereas Luke is supposed to be the hero, but he runs away from his responsibilities. The heroes keep running away from their responsibilities. They're terrible heroes, it's a horrible villain, the New Order is a shameful attempt to make the Empire look weak compared to them. The acting is at times over the top and way too irritating. The screenplay is meh, the battle scenes are and there's not really one instance where you sit there and say, man, this is a Star Wars movie. The jokes fell flat. It was a drab, slow, horribly done movie that would have been better off in the hands of a bunch of college film students trying to recreate Episode 4 themselves. It was a shameful attempt to bring all the disgruntled fans back on board with cheesy cameo appearances and a bunch of tributes to the original series, which was nothing more than obvious, blatant thievery. The planets are all the same, the characters are pretty much the same, and yet there's not any explanation as to some of the things that are connected to the original movies. This was not supposed to be a reboot. This is the 7th one in the line based on its title alone. And all it did was remake Episode 4 in a much less adequate way. Overall, this is not the only thing that I appreciated in my past that Disney fucked up. But I'll get into that much later on. Thank you all for watching. I have more for you soon to come. So stay tuned, take care, and have a great day.